Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
David Cameron's ratings may have slipped, but I doubt that among British people he's lagging behind Donald Trump. Mr. Trump gets a very bad press in the UK. Remember the petition to ban him from even visiting here. Well, as we in the media gawp open-mouthed at his incredible rule-busting campaign, we've not given much time to Trump supporters to set out a serious case for the man. Is there one? Well, Lord Black, Conrad Black, who's a publisher, former Telegraph proprietor, a man jailed in Miami at one point for fraud, but also a writer and biographer, has made something of a case. I spoke to him earlier from Toronto. What could we expect from a Donald Trump presidency?
He's put out a tax plan that has been very well received and is in fact quite an intelligent plan. So have several of the other candidates.
How worried are you by his expressed views this week actually on NATO? Now, on NATO, he, like all Americans, thinks the Europeans should pull their weight and pay more for defence rather than free riding on the US. That's not unique to Donald Trump. But he is the one who is saying things like, well, if they don't and that breaks up NATO, it breaks up NATO, as though that's something that's kind of like the loss of a piece of crockery or something. That I would have thought would worry you about him.
Well, I know him, you know, and I think he's ultimately sensible. His verbal infelicities, I think, are unnecessary. But remember, he's now in the phase where he's bringing what's called in the United States the Archie Bunker vote. He was a famous person on a television comedy program.
Alf Garnett,
who was
the American Alf Garnett.
That's the corresponding British figure, exactly. But he's not a clock-punching man with a metal lunchbox. He's a billionaire, and he's run a very successful company. But he's brought that vote in, and now he's broadening it out and speaking in less worrisome cadences, I think, and more sensibly and comprehensively. But I'm not worried that he, if elected, would do completely irrational things. On the specific subject of NATO, I believe that Britain and Poland and one of the little Baltic countries are the only ones, along with the United States, who are meeting the pledged quotas of the 2% of GDP devoted to defense. I am quite ashamed of Canada's performance in this, and I have made that point well known in this country. And I think to the extent that Donald Trump is just saying that this can't go on and that NATO in general needs a regeneration, he's absolutely right. But I agree with you that it could be said in a way with a little more sensitivity to the susceptibilities of the Europeans.
One last one on him, which has been the rather ugly toleration of a sort of a rather violent and aggressive tone, physical violence at the rallies. Obviously not only on his side, there are scuffles and fights with demonstrators, but it does seem surprising, doesn't it, that a man running for president would, you know, some of the rather ugly phrases he's used, what are they? Things like, he should have been roughed up a bit, I'd like to punch him in the face, knock the crap out of them. These are sorts of phrases
that was ISIS. He was talking, your last quote was about ISIS, not about Americans. But the other ones were about hecklers, yeah. Look, as I say, these are infelicities, but he certainly hasn't encouraged violence at all. Donald is, in fact, a moderate. If a candidate is going to upset them, it's going to, and not that I would urge this, but it's going to be someone like Cruz, whose natural constituency is a bunch of Bible-thumping corn cobbers with M16s in the rear window of their pickup trucks. Donald is a moderate, and for these left-wing organizations to try and disrupt his meetings, I think his response to it, while it could have been better phrased at times, has in fact been designed altogether to settle things down. And I believe they have settled down since that unfortunate incident in Chicago a few weeks ago.
I mean, the comparison is made to Benito Mussolini, isn't it? I wonder what you think of that.
Please.
Really?
No. I mean, this is just bunk. I mean, he's not a bit like Mussolini. I mean, you can't compare him to a fascist who ordered street gangs around and they all dress in black shirts and march on the Capitol.
You know, the big story this week are these Panamanian papers, these Panama Papers, leaks, offshore accounts, all of that. Look, as someone who was a publisher of newspapers, which obviously like leaks, someone also who has complicated financial affairs. I wonder what you make of those Panama leaks and where the offshore accounts are now held in public esteem or lack of.
Just because somebody has an account in Panama or uses a Panama law firm for the British Virgin Islands, there's nothing wrong with that. And I think this hectoring of your Prime Minister has been unjust. I don't see that he did anything wrong or his father did anything wrong or that there's any reason to harass him about it.
I know some people have said you've used offshore accounts. What's your position on them at the moment? Come on, tell us, confess.
Who, me? I haven't used offshore accounts.
You haven't
no,
used
I haven't.
No, okay.
No.
Conrad Black.
I have nothing against them, but I have not, no. But be careful of this stampede to absolute transparency. That isn't transparency, that's complete nudity and handing over full knowledge of all of our activities of every kind and nature to governments. And there is a case to be made that the government has a legitimate level of curiosity about what its citizens do, but not an absolute right to know everything they do in every country.
Conrad Black, thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.